Hey, it's Greg with A&A Masonry. We're starting a new job today. This time it's concrete repair. If you've ever seen sidewalks or patios where there's cracks, tree roots, things that have caused sections to shift or move, this job is going to deal with that. This is a repeat customer of mine, and we're going to do two different types of concrete repairs. Some of it is demo and replace those sections. The other is going to be something a little bit more unique. It's a polyurethane. It's a proprietary blend that we use specifically to surface concrete in areas where it doesn't make sense to rip it out and just pour new. So let's take a look. The guys are over there prepping it right now. Let's see how they're doing, and I'll walk you through the job.
A&A Masonry, an award-winning company servicing the Greater Toronto Area and the Golden Horseshoe.
Okay, we are here on this side of the job. We've asked our crew to step aside so they won't make noise. You can hear what we're having to explain. Now, this particular job is a little bit technical on us because it's not just eliminating the concrete and repouring it. In this case, the structure, when it was built, actually went deep into the building there, and this glass wall behind me was later installed. So this is one mosaic type of slab of concrete. So we felt it would be better to just do a urethane finish on top of that, give them the strength they need, and able to withstand the elements of our environment, the heat, the cold, the fluctuation of heaving, and so on and so forth. First step is we have to deal with the cracks. You can see the crew has already ground out the cracks, eliminating all the small debris, any flaking concrete. So we've got something where we can put later an epoxy resin, which will bond to the concrete just as strong. Bang it with the hammer, it won't break. The advantage that we have with that is that it dries quickly. It allows us to keep on moving through this job. This is a school, they've got to open up. We can't delay it 3-4 days waiting for a concrete patch to fix or to dry up before we can continue on. Once we've done that, the crew's going to clean this up. They're going to sand this down with a diamond blade, get it all nice and clean of any grease, dirt, anything else. And then we apply the urethane. And with our proprietary blend, it's very, very flexible. It bonds very well. It dries quickly. It maintains its shine, its luster. We're going to roll some silica sand in there, so it's going to have a nice little texture to it. It's going to be nice and safe, but also it's going to bring it down to a nice darker gray. It's going to look beautiful as an entrance. But this will last for decades and decades to come. It saves this organization huge money on having to remove this glass panel to either do a concrete fix or to just live with the unsightly cracks and everything else like that. Watch the guys work. You're going to love it when it's done. Now, this is a typical problem with concrete. We have a beautiful, very large, thick slab of concrete, and yet we end up with cracks like this. The reason? Water. When it freezes, it expands. If there's any gaps, any seams, naturally there's going to be something around the column here. This is the inferior spot. We can see by the rest of the slab that it is not shifting or heaving. It's just water is getting in on the surface, working its way down and causing this to crack. This is one of the reasons why they called us in to solve this problem. So what we're going to do, instead of patching this with concrete, we're going to use an epoxy resin. Again, it's very strong. It bonds very quickly. It locks in. And because it dries very quickly, we can continue on in the process and finish off very quickly. We don't have to wait for that concrete to dry. When you see this, before the urethane goes on, you're going to be amazed at how strong it looks. It really is a neat product. We're very excited about it.
The first action, as Greg mentioned, was for the crew to grind out all the cracks and broken sections of concrete so they can then put the epoxy resin in the cracks. As you can see, at the base of the columns, there's a considerable amount of damage to the concrete that needs attention. They've cut out the small square section where that will be filled in with an epoxy resin gel combined with an aggregate. Otherwise, they continue to grind out the cracks for the epoxy resin to be fully applied. You can see here where the epoxy resin has been applied to fill up the cracks as the crew continue to apply it to other areas of the surface. This work continues with the end result of having a very smooth surface to apply the urethane to. Here's Greg again explaining the process in detail.
Okay, here we are on our second day of our urethane application over this concrete slab. We've done a great job so far. I can see the crew really exfoliated this. They ground the cement surface down. And again, to do that, we need to get rid of all the oils, imperfections, and impurities that are on the cement, so that urethane is really going to bond. Secondarily, we had to deal with the broken concrete chunks that were coming off this column and the other column over there. We used an epoxy resin gel. We combine it with an aggregate. It's super strong. It dries really quickly. I'm looking at it right now. You can't tell the difference between that and the concrete itself. We also filled in these huge water cracks and shifting cracks in the concrete itself with an epoxy resin, just so that we're going to have a nice smooth surface. Now you can see the crew behind me working diligently on filling in any gaps or cracks or imperfections of pit marks, things of with the salt and the weathering that causes those type of things to happen, where you get little chunks and spalling on the concrete surface. We want this to be really smooth, so that when we put that urethane on top, it's going to give it a nice finish, a nice gloss. It's going to be beautiful and consistent. People always ask me about these jobs and what it takes to do them. You can see the time and effort that it takes to go in and fill these in by hand, just like parging. And also they're just smoothing it off with a little water base, so that it really tethers in to the cement surface itself. So once we cover it over with the urethane, just like you would fill in a drywall before you do painting, it's going to be the same effect. So we want a nice smooth surface. Next step, once they're done, again, this is very fast drying Ardex material that we use for these type of jobs. It's going to let us put in that urethane right afterwards. They're going to start applying that today. I'm really excited to see what it's going to look like. I know the color. And on this high traffic area, again, urethane is very durable. It's flexible, so that if there's any movement, it won't crack, it won't peel. It'll bond super well because we've prepped the surface. It's all in the preparation. And it's going to maintain its luster. It's very easy to keep clean. It's going to make this building, which is a school, beautiful as an entranceway, a high traffic area, and it's going to last. And that's the important thing.
So as Greg explained, the sequence of the work done consists of grinding out the cracks and creating a smooth surface of the concrete, then applying the epoxy resin to the cracks, then filling up the squares by the columns with an epoxy resin gel combined with an aggregate. Then the crew fill in the rest of any imperfections, holes, etc. with Ardex to create a completely smooth surface so the urethane can be applied. The next step is to fix the bottom of the column surfaces from the water cracks that have eroded away over years. You can see the work involved to measure off and fill in the cracks at the bottom of the columns. It's very important to create a smooth surface on the bottom of the columns in which to apply the urethane when the time comes. Now the complete concrete surface and the bottom of the columns are ready to have the first coat of urethane applied. The crew will do 2 coats of urethane to the platform. The urethane takes the time that it takes to apply it to the surfaces. You can see the crew working hard to ensure the complete surface is having the urethane stick to it. Taking the time to really make sure the job is perfect is extremely important in this process. With the first coat of urethane applied, the crew will let it set overnight and come back and apply the second coat. And here you can see the second coat applied, including on the surface of the bottom of the columns, giving a great upgrade to the structure as the aesthetic look of the concrete, the columns, and the whole entranceway as well. Here is Greg with a different aspect of this job on the front steps of the school.
Okay, we're still on the same job, and we got called into this part of it because this particular area called for repouring concrete. Remove the destroyed concrete, cracked concrete at the bottom of these steps here, and just repour, replace. In this case, we can't do that and offer any kind of a warranty with that product. We discovered that once we started taking the concrete and removing it, it's only about 2 inches thick. It's sitting on a prior slab underneath here, a sub-slab, if you will. It's also poured around metal railings that are going countersunk into the cement. That's a huge problem for water to get in, huge problem for cracks to begin. This pour, if we did this, wouldn't last more than a couple of years. So we have to present to the owners, the property managers, a viable solution that's going to last. We have urethane. That's what we're going to do. We're going to come in here with that epoxy resin gel, mixed it with the aggregate, get a nice strong bond, layering it up to the same surface level as the concrete slab here at the base of the steps. It's going to adhere around to the metal railings, and then we're going to finish it with a nice urethane finish. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to match the same color as the front steps, and it will last. And again, it's something that we can give these owners, these property owners, a viable product that's going to last and give them a good finished product for the money that they're spending on this job.
The crew chip away at the concrete surface, which is only a couple of inches deep. As Greg mentioned, it's not deep enough to pour the new concrete. So instead, they're preparing it for the epoxy resin with the urethane finish. Getting the surface ready, this section can then be quickly finished off.
I wanted to bring you in close to see this finished product. If you remember what we were dealing with when we had to break away the broken concrete around these railing posts, was that we had less than 2 inches of thickness, which means that we really couldn't pour a concrete slab with any integrity whatsoever. So we used the epoxy resin compound to fill in that 2-inch depth on this threshold at the bottom of the stairs. Then we covered it with the 𝐬𝐿. We matched the same color. This will give it structure that will last just like a concrete slab. It gives us an opportunity, or gives us an option where we may have to reconsider of cutting all the concrete away and doing something more drastic, more expensive. This is a great solution. It'll last, it's very durable, it looks great, and I'm just excited to see how it looks when it's all finished, because it matches the original staircase. It blends in with the cement. We put a little gasket here because we're dealing with 2 different types of materials, so we don't want them to expand and contract differently and cause any kind of friction or breaking between the two. Certainly to the concrete, I believe the epoxy is stronger, but it looks great, and it's just a wonderful solution to be able to offer to our customers when we run into these challenges, which there's no real simple solution. This becomes simple, it looks beautiful, and it lasts. So now that we're done here, let's go around the side and let's see the big slab. Now that it's all done, we put our second layer on there. I'm excited to see what that looks like.
And here is the finished slab that we've been watching. You can see the grate surface now fully protected, and also you can see the base of the columns fully cleaned up and protected. This provides an incredible look, but also provides years of safety for the students who are going to be using this entrance. An overall exceptional look that will last and protect for years and years.
Okay, here we are. The job is now done at this school where we resurfaced this concrete slab with a beautiful urethane. The color looks amazing. There's a nice texture into it. As I'm standing on it, I can feel it's non-slip, so even when it gets wet in the wintertime, it's going to be safe, it's going to be clean, it's going to maintain its durability, its gloss. We also wrapped up around the columns here because we noticed there was hairline cracks from water going up these aggregate concrete columns here, and we surfaced the base with the urethane. So it's bulletproof. Looks great. The crew did an amazing job. We're going to be looking at this for decades to come. It's going to be just as beautiful, and it's just in time for school to start.
So if you have eroded or worn away concrete, or if you have failing concrete issues, contact A&A Masonry. Ask for their top crews and let them isolate the problem and get the correct solution to make your home or building as safe as it can be and looking great for all the decades in the future. To schedule your next project, contact A&A Masonry today.